Mail services. In this nugget, we're going to talk about electronic mail, which is the real reason we come into work every day, right? So we're going to go over how to set up email on your Linux machine so that you can read and write email using a remote mail server. And we'll also talk a little bit about setting up your local machine as a mail server. So let's get down to it. Well, let's just start by talking about some acronyms that are common for describing the electronic mail process, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Okay, so the first thing here is the MTA, or the Mail Transfer Agent. This is the piece of the mail system that's responsible for transferring the mail from one system to another. Okay, the common mail transfer agents that are out there are things like SendMail. Okay, this is probably the oldest and most common mail transfer agent out there. POP is another one. Okay, IMAP, maybe you've heard of that. Okay, all of these are mail transfer agents. We're going to talk quite a bit about SendMail and a little bit about POP in this nugget as to what their role is in the whole electronic mail process. Okay, then there's the Mail User Agent, or MUA. Okay, these are just mail clients. All right, these are just the programs that you use to compose and read email. All right. Now on Linux systems, in Red Hat Linux, the default mail client is called Evolution. Okay, this is a Symbian product, and we'll look at that particular client. The oldest and sort of most ubiquitous mail user agent is just the mail program. Okay, but this is a really primitive program, but it does some things really well. We'll look at it quickly and just show you some of the things that you can do with the mail program very, very easily. Okay, and which makes it worth knowing. There's other mail clients out there. There's Netscape Mail. There's Balsa, Pine, Elm, Mutt, and all sorts of mail clients are out there. These will be the three that we'll look at in this nugget, just because I think they're sort of the most common ones and sort of the most unique ones in some sense. Okay, and then there's the Mail Delivery Agent. Sometimes you'll see this referred to as the LDA, or the Local Delivery Agent. Okay, now I like this name better, Local Delivery Agent, because it gets across the point of what this part of the mail system is doing. This part of the mail system is not responsible for sending mail between systems. It's only responsible for moving it around sort of on the local system. Okay, so once the mail transfer agent receives some email, then the local delivery agent actually puts it in your mailbox. Okay, and the programs on Linux that take care of this, there's really only one, and it's called ProcMail. Okay, so there's sort of a basic starting point on how electronic mail works. There's the mail transfer agent, the mail user agent, and the mail delivery agent, and they all work together to send email. So let's just walk through an example to make sure we actually understand this. So here I've drawn out a diagram. Okay, so there's a user over here, Candy, and her system over here is called Baker.org. Okay, then her friend over here is Donna, and her system over here is called Rainier.org. Okay, but they have their own, local machines here. I haven't named these actual machines, but they have these machines that they log on to that are the workstations on their desks. And then there are mail servers for each of their organizations. Okay, so I've just called those mail servers smtp.baker.org and smtp.rainier.org. Okay, so what happens when Candy wants to send a message to Donna over here at Rainier.org? Okay, well, Candy is going to use her favorite mail user agent and compose the message. Okay, she's going to say to Donna at Rainier.org, hi, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so she's going to send the message. Then where does that message go? Well, then that message travels to her local mail server. Okay, her at the smtp.baker.org. Okay, now the mail transfer agent, okay, on Baker.org is now responsible for this email message. Okay, so the mail message here is now queued. The one that Candy sent is now queued, and Baker, the server here at Baker.org is has all sorts of other requests to take care of. When the mail server gets around to taking care of Candy's request, then what's going to happen is the mail server at Baker.org is going to establish a link with Rainier.org. Okay, and say, hey, I've got some email for you, and that correspondence is probably going to be done on port 25. That's the most common port for email. Okay, so after Raniere.org acknowledges this connection, okay, then Baker.org will actually send the message. So Raniere.org says, yeah, I'm listening, go ahead, send me the message. And then the mail server at Baker.org says, all right, here it comes, boom, and sends it off to Raniere.org. Okay, then Raniere.org, the mail server there, will then acknowledge the receipt of the message. Okay, so it will not acknowledge the receipt of the message, say, yes, I got that message, and then boom, this connection is closed. Okay, now once it's on Raniere.org, then the local delivery agent, excuse me, the local delivery agent on Raniere.org puts it into the mail spool, like var mail Donna or something like that. Okay, so then the local delivery agent takes care of that, and then Donna, depending on how things are set up, Donna is either notified that she has new email, if she has some little program running in the background, or she goes to check her email, and boom, then there's the message from Candy. Okay, so let's just talk about what can break down in this process, and I think that will help us understand a little bit more about the email system. Well, the two most common things that can go wrong in this picture. The first one is that Candy sends the email message to a non-existent user. So say she thought her friend's email address was donnab@Raniere.org. Okay, but really her name is Donna@Raniere.org, and say there is no Donna B on this system at all. Okay, so Candy composes the message, clicks send, and it's going to Donna B@Raniere.org. Her local SMTP server queues it up. When her request comes to the front of the queue, Baker.org tries to connect to Raniere.org. But instead of Raniere.org taking that message and then acknowledging the receipt of it, okay, instead of that happening, what's going to happen is Raniere.org is going to reject the message and say, sorry, there is no Donna B on my system, and just, Raniere.org is going to close the connection, and now Baker.org has the message, okay? Now it's up to Baker.org what to do with it. Depending on how it's configured, it could do any number of things. It could just completely discard it and go on about its business. More typically, what it does is it composes an email message of itself to Candy and says, hey, this user Donna B@Raniere.org doesn't exist, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's one possibility. All right. Another possibility of what could go wrong in this picture is that, just say this mail server smtp.raniere.org is down. Say it's down for maintenance, or because the network that it's connected to is down, or something like that. Okay, well then Candy is over here, she's composing her email message, she clicks sends, it goes out to her mail server, then her mail server says, okay, I need to establish the connection with Raniere.org. It tries to establish the connection, but Raniere.org is down, so it can't do it. So then it waits some amount of time, tries to establish the connection again, can't do it. Wait some amount of time, tries to establish the connection again, can't do it. After some number of attempts, or after some time period, depending on how it's configured, then Baker.org is going to write an email back to Candy and say, sorry, Raniere.org is down, you're going to have to try this again later. Okay? The other possibility is that Baker.org tries, and fails, and then eventually gets through. Okay, well then what it can do, then Raniere.org says, all right, send me the message, it acknowledges the request, closes the connection, and now Raniere.org has the message, and the local delivery agent delivers it to Donna's mailbox. Okay, so those are the two most common things that can happen. Either you're sending to some non-existent user, or some mail server along the path is broken, okay, and is not working. All right, and so you can see from this picture that these computers that Candy and Donna log on to don't need to be on all the time for this system to function properly. These computers should be on all the time for the system to function properly. So when Candy sends the message, it goes right to her mail server. She can turn off her computer then, right? And then maybe the mail server tries, gets through, then it's delivered to Donna's local mailbox. Maybe this computer is off. Then Donna logs into her computer later on, and then pulls the mail off of the mail server with like POP or something like that, and then she can read her email. Okay, so the mail servers that are actually out there dealing with transferring from one system to another, those particular servers should be on all the time, but your local workstations don't have to be on all the time. Okay, so that's a basic rundown of how electronic mail works, and now let's go out to the Linux screen and look at some of the various clients that are popular with Red Hat Linux. Well, the first email client that I want to look at is called Evolution, and this is a product by Zimian. Okay, and you'll see the splash screen come up here. This is the default email program for Red Hat Linux nowadays, and it's a perfectly good email program. What I want to do is just walk you through how I set up Zimian to be my mail program for what I think is a pretty typical situation. Okay, I'm not running an SMTP server on my particular computer because I'm only hooked up to the internet when I have my computer on, okay? And it's a dynamic connection to my ISP. All right. What I think is the more typical situation, instead of running an SMTP server on your own machine, you're actually using someone else's mail server, okay, your ISP's mail server, namely. All right. And then you're going to send and receive email through that mail server, just like the picture that I showed you, the diagram that I showed you when Candy was sending to Donna. They had their own local machines, but those machines didn't always have to be on, but the mail servers that they used did have to be on, okay? And that's the more typical situation, I think. We'll also talk later in this nugget about setting up an SMTP server on your own machine in case you do have a full-on connection to the internet that's on all the time, and we'll talk about how to set that up. But let's just first talk about how to configure clients to use mail servers that are remote, that are on some other machine. Okay, so let's go under Tools and let's go to Mail Settings here. And I've already set up my account. Okay, but I'm just going to walk you through what I did to get it set up, then we'll see how to actually use the account in a couple seconds here. Okay, so this is highlighted, so I'm just going to click Edit, and this is brings up the Evolution Account Editor. Okay, so this first screen is just kind of like fluff. Okay, it's the name that I give my account, Perry Fasano, my full name, my email address. I can give my organization, my SIG file, that sort of stuff. Okay, so then each of these tabs has meaning that we want to look at. So let's look at receiving mail first. Okay, so when I'm receiving mail, the server type that I picked was POP. Okay, now all of the things that are set in here, they're not set out of magic or anything else. I'm just following the instructions that my ISP gave me, and they said when you're receiving mail, use the POP protocol. Okay, so under this box, I could have chose POP, IMAP, mail directory format for mail directories, local delivery. I'm not choosing any of those. Okay, I'm choosing POP. If I did have an SMTP server set up on this machine, actually, then I would use local delivery as the way to receive my mail. But I'm not. I'm using this remote connection, so I'm choosing POP. Okay, what's the host name? Well, the host name, again, they gave it to me, mail.fasano.net. Okay, what's the username? Well, my actual email address is perry@fasano.net. But again, my ISP told me the username that you should use is perry%fasano.net for your account. Okay, so again, this isn't any special magic thing. You shouldn't try this, if something's not working. This is just, again, exactly what my ISP told me to write as my username. Okay, the authentication type here, okay, is password. Okay, and that is required, again, by my ISP that I type a password in to receive email off of the server. Okay, let's go under receiving options. Okay, you can have it automatically check for mail, and you can also choose to leave messages on the server. Okay, so I don't have this box checked, but I do have this one checked to leave messages on the server because I'd like it, because if you pop messages off the server and you don't have this box checked, then they're gone from the server. And then the only place they are is on this particular machine. I like that one central storage location for my email messages, so no matter where I check email from, I will be able to access all of my mail messages that I've ever gotten it. Okay, so that's why I choose to leave messages on the server. And one last one that I want to look at here is sending mail. Okay, now this one, again, my ISP told me the server type is an SMTP server. The other choice here is send mail. Okay, but I'm going to leave it at SMTP. The server configuration, the host name is mail.fasano.net, and they told me that the server is going to require authentication. Okay, so I checked that box. Now, one of the nice things from Zimian, now when you check this, if this box is unchecked, all this stuff grays out. Okay, so when you check this box, then you have to fill in all of these fields as well. Okay, now the authentication type, there's all these different authentication types. Okay, it's on CRAM MD5 right now. What's nice about Ximian here is you can click this box, check for supported types. I'll click it right now. And it connects to the server, and then when I open this back up, only 2 things are highlighted. The other ones are grayed out. I can't even highlight them. So these are the 2 possible authentication types that my server will accept. Okay, and I just chose CRAM MD5. Now what's CRAM MD5? Well, the way that this works is that what's going to happen is I'm on my local machine and I'm saying, okay, I want to send this email out using mail.fasano.net. Okay, well, it's going to require authentication. All right, so how does this authentication work? Well, the way that CRAM MD5 works is that I tell my local machine here tells mail.fasano.net and says, hey, Perry wants to send some email. Okay, then the server, the mail server, mail.fasano.net says, okay, Perry wants to send some email. Here's Perry's encrypted password. So mail.fasano.net is going to send my encrypted password back to this machine. Okay, then this local machine here is going to say, okay, now I've got Perry's encrypted password. It's going to prompt me for my password. So I'll type my password into some box, and then the local machine here will encrypt that password that I typed in. It will then compare the encrypted password that I typed in to the encrypted password that mail.fasano.net sent back to me. Okay, and if those 2 comparisons, if those 2 encrypted passwords match up, then the local machine will say, yes, I've got a match. That what Perry did type in the correct password, and then my email message will be allowed to be sent. Now, why did it do that? Instead of just taking my password and sending it over the network to mail.fasano.net and letting it do the validation, the reason it did it the way it did is because in that way, my password never traveled over the internet in a plain text fashion. I typed it into some box, and it stayed on this machine. Okay, and the local machine, did the MD5 check on it, did the MD5 hash on it, and then compared to the encrypted version that mail.fasano.net. So my plain text password never traveled over the internet. That's a good thing. Okay, and that's just part of how MD5 works, CRAM MD5. Okay, now whether your server requires authentication, that depends on your particular mail server. Most mail servers nowadays do, because they don't want to serve as relays for like spam messages. Okay, so that's why a lot of mail servers you'll see nowadays require authentication, because they don't want to be the culprit of sending out hundreds of millions of spam messages. Okay, again, my username that I type in here is that perry%fasano.net, just based on what they told me, okay, what my ISP told me to type there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the account editor. Now let me just close these windows. Now if I want to create a message, I just type new message. Okay, I'll type it in here. Let me just send it to my CBT Nuggets account. Okay, so perry@cbtnuggets.com, and right now I have my CBT Nuggets account forwarded to perry@fasano.net. But so I'll just say yo here, and then down here in the message I'll just say hi, good looking. Okay, so now I'm going to say send. All right, now it's saying please enter the SMTP password for mail.fasano.net. So I have to do this. This is what I was talking about. I type my password in, which I know I just typed wrong, so I'm going to do it again. I'll type my password in here, but it never leaves my computer in plain text format. I can choose to remember this password, and then it'll go in some little local repository so that every time I don't have to type my password in. Okay, you can choose to do that if you'd like. And then I'll say okay. It's going to authenticate it and sending the message, and down here there was a little screen that just said sending message 100% complete. Now, since I don't have my thing set up to automatically check for mail every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes or whatever, I'll just click this button whenever I want to check and see if I have new mail. Okay, so again, I have to type my password in to retrieve mail. Again, I can choose to remember this password. I'll just type that in, click OK. It's getting the mail, and boom, there's the message. I highlight it, and there's the message that I just sent. If I want to delete it, I just click on the trash can, boom, it's gone. Okay, so there's a little tour of Evolution. Evolution has all the things that you would expect other email programs to have, contacts, lists, all sorts of stuff. Just poke around in here, and I think it'll be a lot like any other email client that you've ever used. It just happens to be the default one for Red Hat Linux, which is why I showed it to you. Now I just want to take like 30 seconds and show you how to use the mail program, the mail command to send and receive email. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use another window here that I have open, which I've logged into as root, and I'm going to use the mail command to send mail to the Perry user. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to send Perry mail that is a file. So I could just hit enter here, and then what would happen is it would come down to the next line, and it would just be blank, and I could just type out my email and then hit Control D when I was finished to send the mail to Perry, to send the message that I type right here. Okay, but the reason I use this program at all is just to send files to someone else. Okay, and I'm going to use the redirection operator, so I'm going to say whatever file this is that I type, use that as my mail message that I'm sending to Perry. Okay, so let's just send the bash RC file to Perry. Okay, so I do that. Now let's go back over to this Perry window here. Okay, type mail, and now you can see I've got a new email message from root. Okay, and it's message number 1. So I can just hit 1 here and hit enter, and then there's the message that I received from root. Okay, if I want to delete that mail, I just press delete 1. If I want to quit out, I say quit. Okay, but if I want to save that message, there's options for save. At this ampersand here, all you have to do is say help, and you'll get the full slew of possibilities there, okay, of what you can do with the mail program. It's a very simplistic program, but I do find it very easy to do just what I did here, which is send a file to someone else. It's a lot easier to me than going into some graphical client and then browsing for some particular attachment to put onto the email message and then clicking send and so on. If I know exactly what file it is I want to send, I can just use the mail program and send it, and it's a lot easier to do it that way. Well, now let's talk about configuring SendMail for your local system. So if you're going to set up your local system as a mail server, then you're going to configure SendMail, and let's talk about what that entails. Well, the first thing, you have to make sure you have the right packages on your system. Okay, so the packages that you need for SendMail, there's 2 of them. One of them is the actual SendMail program right there, and the other one is a program to help you configure SendMail, this one right here. Okay, do you like how those 2 flashed up on the screen right on cue? Okay, so I wish all the material worked out that well. All right, so there's the 2 particular RPM packages that we need for SendMail, and if you're going to do any altering of the configuration file, you need to have this one. You're going to at least need to alter it somewhat, so you're going to need that package if you're going to set up SendMail on your system. Okay, so now let's go to the Etsy mail directory and look there, and there's 2 files here of note that I want to talk about. One is sendmail.cf. This is the actual SendMail configuration file. But this configuration file is like 100 pages long, okay, and it also has a very particular formatting to it. So you never, ever, ever want to edit this by hand. And instead what you're going to do is you're going to edit this file, which is sendmail.mc. Now this file is a macro, and then what we're going to do is alter this file, which is only like 100 lines long or something, run the macro on it, and that's going to create a new sendmail.configuration file. Okay, so I'm not going to go through with you all of the possibilities on how to configure SendMail. SendMail is a very complicated program. There's books on SendMail that are like 1,200 pages long that talk about all the various things that you can do with SendMail. Okay, we're not going to go into it in that great of detail. All right, what I want to do though is open up in the editor sendmail.mc to give you an idea of what this file is. Okay, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to have some reference or some resource that's going to tell you what to be changing in this particular file so that you can configure SendMail the way you want. Either you've got some manual open, and I'm going to show you where Red Hat has their manual on SendMail and their discussion of how to configure SendMail. You can search in Google for other people's SendMail configurations, that sort of thing. Okay, so you're going to be following some book or some manual or something like that to configure SendMail, and then you're going to be looking for some particular lines in there to do something with. Say we want to mess with these lines right here, Q warn and Q return. Okay, so what these are is these have to do with that situation that I was talking about early in this nugget about Baker, the mail server on Baker, was trying to send to the mail server on Rainier, okay? And the mail servers on Rainier was down, okay? And so what did Baker do? Well, it had some amount of time to keep resending the message and so on. Well, here's where these things are set. So here it says, after 4 hours, warn the sender of the message that there's a problem. Okay, so if it doesn't go through after 4 hours, I would get an email back that says, hey, mail server Rainier is down. I can't send this. I'm going to keep trying. I'll let you know if I give up. Okay, and then here the return aspect is 5 days. So if it can't do it after 5 days, then you'll actually get the mail back, and then because the mail server's given up because it's tried for 5 days straight. Okay, now if you were going to change these, one of the things you would do is you would take out the DNL here at the front. The DNL just says delete till a new line. So basically it's like a comment. Okay, that's part of the macro here. Okay, so you would take out the first DNL, you would change these numbers from 4 hours to say 1 hour, and from 5 days to 3 days, or however you wanted to change those numbers. Okay, then you would save this file. I'm not going to actually mess with this file, but what you would do is you would hit Control X, Control S, or Control X, Control C and say that you want to save it. And then once you've made the changes to the macro file, what you would do is first you would back up the old configuration file. Okay, you would copy sendmail.cf to sendmail.backup.cf or cf.backup or however you want to name it. Okay, and so that's the first thing you would do is back up that particular file. And then what you would do is you would use the M4, which actually runs the macro, and you would say /Etsy/mail. Let me have to complete this field here. Etsy mail, and then you'd say sendmail.mc. And then you'd say pipe the output of that into Etsy mail sendmail.cf. Okay, so once you've made the backup of the file and you've changed the macro file, then you run this M4 command just like this, and then that's going to look through the macro and create a brand new configuration file based on the changes you made in the macro. Okay, so that's the basic way that this works. Okay, now there's this website that I just want to show you. Red Hat has a website here, obviously, for configuring SendMail. So this is in the corporate environment. If you back up here, that will be for the home user environment. This is for the ISP environment. So these various links will help you configure SendMail the way that you want it to. Okay, and there's the web address of where this is, and they're talking about a slightly older version of SendMail in this manual, but just a couple minor versions ago. It's still version 8 of SendMail. It's just not the newest version I've noticed, but it should be pretty much the same. Okay, so this is the kind of resource that you would turn to help you configure SendMail. Don't expect to be able to go into the configuration file and just understand what it means. Okay, if there's one configuration file that you should be careful with, it's this one, just because it's so long and unwieldy. All right, so that's how to configure SendMail on your server, on your particular system, to set it up as a mail server. Now let's just wrap up this nugget. All right, well, it's time to wrap up our nugget on electronic mail. We started by talking about how email is sent and received over the internet, and I walked you through that diagram so you could get an idea of what programs and protocols were responsible at which stages of the process as the email went from your computer to some other computer over the internet. Then we talked about configuring and using email clients. I showed you how to configure Evolution for my particular setup. You need to follow your ISP's recommendations and go through all the setup screens for your particular email client. And it's pretty much the same for Evolution as it is for Netscape, as it is for Pine and Mutt and all the other various email clients that are available in Linux. And then we talked a little bit at the end about configuring email servers. Remember to always use that macro to change the configuration file for SendMail. Don't edit the SendMail configuration file by hand. And get some book on SendMail, or look at some of the resources that I pointed you to on the web. Search in Google to find the kinds of configuration file changes that you're going to need to make for your particular server. Well, I hope you found this nugget informative, and thanks again for watching.